In this video, we're going to talk about adverse impact, also called disparate impact. In particular, we're going to discuss affirmative action plans, and diversity. Affirmative action is a proactive effort to provide equal employment opportunity. There are two different types of affirmative action that occur. The first one is on behalf of the government, where they're creating laws in a legal environment that creates a proactive approach to eliminating discrimination in the entire workforce. The other type of affirmative action is an employer who takes actions to ensure equal opportunity. Let's talk about that for a second. One form of affirmative action that an employer can take is to make sure that the applicant pool is diverse. So for example, when you advertise for a position, did you only advertise in one place where the applicants are all of the same race or all of the same gender? Or did you make sure that that advertisement was advertised in places where you're going to reach a large demographic of diverse applicants? That's affirmative action on behalf of an employer. Affirmative action plans are a planned, detailed set of actions. So they are affirmative actions that are placed into an affirmative action program. That sounds a bit complicated, so let's talk about that. An affirmative action program is a plan for how an employer plans to create equal employment opportunities within the entire employment relationship. The most important part of the affirmative action program is to note that it is temporary. It gives temporary preferential treatment to a group that has historical discrimination. One reason that an employer may have an affirmative action program is because they had a past practice of discrimination within the organization and they were found guilty in a court of law, and as part of the punitive process, a corrective action was taken and they were ordered to have an affirmative action program. And again, this would be temporary. It would be specific to the group that was discriminated against, and once the discrimination had been redressed within the organization, then the affirmative action program would end. The next situation where an employer may have an affirmative action program is if it's legally required to do so. So for example, the federal government has an affirmative action program within their entire hiring process, their employment relationship, and they require that of their federal contractors. So in that situation, it's legally mandated. The third situation would be a voluntary affirmative action program. And in this situation, the HR professional may have conducted an analysis, this would be stock, flow, and concentration statistics, to determine whether or not there was historical discrimination occurring in the organization. If you ever start as a new HR professional with an organization, you want to do this. And if you do find this type of discrimination occurring, then you would get with an employment law attorney to put together a voluntary affirmative action program to temporarily provide preferential treatment to a particular group that may have been the subject of discrimination. So what are stock, flow, and concentration statistics, and how do we use them? While some employers collect this information as part of their affirmative action program, other employers collect this information using a voluntary self-identification form as part of the EEO-1 report that's filed every year. Stock statistics basically compare the number of individuals that you hired who are in a protected class category as compared to those who were qualified and interested in the position. And this can come from those voluntary identification forms. Stock statistics look at the overall labor pool, and they compare those who are actually employed as compared with the entire labor pool that is considered qualified, interested, and within a geographic area. Stock statistics are pretty straightforward. The question is, does there appear to be discrimination? And when we look at this example, we've hired 80% female and 20% male, but the availability was 60% female and 40% male. So on the face, it appears that we have favored females in the hiring process, so there does appear to be discrimination, but that doesn't mean there is discrimination. It just means we should look into this more. Applicant flow statistics look at the selection rate of those who are actually hired among different groups for particular job categories. With flow statistics, we're going to apply the 80% rule. So in this example, we have males and females. So with the males, 200 applied and 100 were offered positions. So 100 divided by 200 is 50%. So 50% of the male applicants were offered positions. With the females, we had 100 applicants and 25 were offered positions. So 25 divided by 100 is 25%. So now we take the larger number, which is 50%, and multiply it by 80%. This is the 80% rule. When we do this, we come up with 40%. So the other category, in this particular example, females, would need to be at least 40%. This is a yes or no. So we know that the females' selection rate was 25%. So no, it was not at least 40%. So there is a possibility that discrimination was occurring in the hiring process. When we look at concentration statistics, we're looking at if there are a number of women or minorities in specific job groups where they should be dispersed across several job groups. Like stock statistics, concentration statistics look at, does there appear to be discrimination present? So when we look at the sales, clerical, and management positions, we can see that there is a majority, 50% for sales in one category, 65% for clerical, and 80% for management. So it does appear that on the face, there is one particular group of individuals who comprise the majority of that job category. So how do we make a determination whether or not there is a disparate impact on a particular group? When looking at the stock statistics as compared to concentration statistics, we may find that in the clerical position, there were a larger number of applicants in the clerical position that were female, and so as a result there were a larger number of female applicants in that particular job that were hired, so they were concentrated in that area. When looking at the flow and concentration rates compared together, we may find that across jobs, which is the concentration rate, that the flow, which is the selection rate, may be different or the same. So if we can say that the selection rate of females for the clerical positions is approximately the same as the selection rate for females for management positions, then there's no disparate impact. However, if we can say that there is a higher selection rate for clerical positions than there is for females in management positions, then there may be a disparate impact. HR professionals usually use a Excel spreadsheet to analyze this information because there are a large number of jobs that they're working with. When preparing for the exam, you'll need to know stock, flow, and concentration statistics. You'll also need to make assessments about the potential for disparate impact.